Hey everybody, welcome back for some more learning on iTween. I'm going to run through the major methods that are available to you and show off some of the effects that you can achieve very easily with them. Alright, I have a demo file set up here so I can kind of just run through them all. I have a very simple project in Unity, nothing too special, so let's go ahead and get started through the list. Alright, first let's go over the scaling. Scaling can take X, Y, Z, delay, time, on complete params, on complete target, and loop type. All of this is written down in the documentation for you to review, but I just wanted to let you know that almost all of these have the same properties available to you. So let's go ahead and see what Scale 2 does. Nothing too surprising, it just scales the object on the axis you choose. Alright, let's choose scale from. Now the reason why I put these froms in here is so you can set up a scene ahead of time visually that you can see in the editor, and then if you want them to be brought in a nice presentation manner, you can use from, and what from does is it actually will take it outside of where it is or where it was initially set by you in Unity and pull it to where it is. So in this instance, what it's going to do is take the object and scale it out on the z-axis by 2, and then after 1 second it'll pull it in. So it's kind of reversing the presentation value of this, whereas scale 2 animated to that value, scale from will come from that value. So let's go ahead and see what happens. As you can see, it went out, and after the delay was exhausted, it brought itself in. Alright, let's go over punches. Punches, I put these in here for mainly for special effects usage. In fact, I recently did a project where I had to simulate a car's suspension, and it really didn't make sense to put physics behind everything for the joints and the springing and everything else. All I did was I made the wheels their own group and the body their own group, and you'll see in a second what punch position does. And utilizing this tool, I was able to simulate the effect of the suspension by just causing this effect to fire, and I'll show you what happens when this goes. As you can see, it kind of applies a force and bounces back to where it was. So as you can see, with some toying around, you can see how you can simulate a car suspension or something similar with that effect. Alright, it's fairly similar for punch rotation. Let me show you. And in this example, we are doing 2 axes at the same time. As you can see, it gets hit and it brings itself back. Okay. Shake, pretty self-explanatory. It will randomly shake the object on the axis you provide by that magnitude. So in this case, we're applying 0.2 to the z-axis, and it will resolve over time after that initial impact back down to where it was originally. And it's a pretty random effect, but as you can see from the other examples on the iTween website, it's nice for showing a camera shake or a similar effect, and I'll show you how that looks right here. And it's completely random every time. And of course, if you were to make that magnitude much larger, you'd get a much larger effect. Alright, stab. I apologize for the name on this effect. It was the best I could come up with at the time. Basically, stab is intended to play an audio clip in time. So it's really good for having sound effects play with your animations. Nice little note to tell you about stab is that if you do not have an audio source applied to the game object you're using it on, it will automatically put an audio source on there and then put the audio clip in that audio source to play it. This might seem redundant, but sometimes when you're sequencing out some animations with iTween, you might forget that a given game object needs to have an audio source on it, and it's just a nice little helper function. So in this example, we're going to take the box using move from and put it up in the sky, and then slowly bring it down as if gravity were affecting it and play an impact sound when it hits. The impact sound here is actually declared in a variable down here, so there's nothing magical going on there. I brought it into the editor like you would normally when you pull an audio clip reference into a game object. So let's go ahead and see what this does. Seem to have an error. Hang on one second here. It's pretty late, so bear with me. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually forgot to bring the sample into the impact reference I mentioned a minute ago for that variable. Okay, let's go ahead and try this again. And there we go. As you can see, if you were to put a shake on that camera as well, as I just showed you a minute ago, it would really bring that effect home. Another nice feature of Stab is you can actually change the volume and the pitch when it hits, which is nice to change up and vary the sound that you have. And it helps you make tweaks on the fly for if a sound's too loud for a given special effect. In fact, we'll go ahead and drop the pitch of that impact you just heard a minute ago down to 0.6 of its original pitch, and here's what we'll get. And as you can imagine, you could go the other way and increase the pitch speed so it speeds up. All right, another audio tool inside of iTween is Audio 2. There's also an Audio From, but I have forgotten to put an example in here, but you get the idea as we go along. There's a lot of repetition, which is good because once you get used to one or two of these, you can figure out how to utilize them going forward. This little example will kickstart an MP3, which is on this audio source, on this game object, and it will also take the pitch down after a certain amount of time. So Audio 2 can adjust the volume and the pitch, which is really nice for some pretty cool turntable DJ sounding kind of effects. And if you notice the end of this this iTween call, I have an on complete method called Audio Stopped. And nice thing about this is this callback will fire another iTween, Audio 2, to bring the pitch back up. And the effect is pretty impressive. So let me go ahead and play it for you and you can check it out. It will fire in a couple seconds. And as you see, Audio 2 was able to bring the pitch back up with that function callback, and it lends itself for a whole lot of cool situations and effects. Okay, let's go into the rotate. Rotate is pretty self-explanatory, but what I did on this example is I wanted to bring attention to the loop type that was recently added to iTween. There are two options that you can throw into this parameter. Almost all of the methods in iTween have loop types. Some of them do not, where it doesn't make sense. Like for shake, stab, rotation, those do not have loops because I felt creatively it just didn't make sense to loop those. If you disagree and you do need to loop some that do not have a loop type, you can use a callback to refire a new iTween, sort of like I just did a minute ago with Audio 2. Alright, let's go ahead and let this go. What will happen is it'll rotate it, rotate 2 is in degrees. So this will rotate the object towards 45 degrees on the x-axis, and then it will ping pong back and forth for a real nice effect with one line of code. Pretty cool. Alright. Let's go ahead and take a look at Rotate From, which, as I said before, is good for setting up a scene. I'm sure you can use it in much more creative ways, but the intention for why I included this method was to bring things in so you could visually set them up in your scene and then have them animate to where they are. And don't forget, by the way, that iTween does work on GUI textures and